Okay, so we've already looked at how to just load in a basic map with a 2D map and then also a scene. So now we're going to look at actually adding layers to one of these maps. All right, so there's a couple of different ways to add layers. We're going to start off here by looking at feature layers. So I'm creating these feature layers from my ArcGIS Online content. Again, there's different ways to do it. Okay, so to start off with, again, you've got to make sure you're linked to the CSS and then the JavaScript. So link tag and a script tag there. And then inside the scripts, again, we're doing the same thing as we did before. We're using this require, function. And then we're listing out the modules that we need. Note we're using map and map view again. And now we've added this feature layer. So this module allows for adding feature layers. Again, then in the function, we list those out in the same order. So map, map view, feature layer. And then we create a map, define a map view, and then I read in some layers and I add them to the map. So this feature layer, I guess this is a constructor method. So this allows you to basically create or define a layer. So this is the link to that layer. So again, it's stored on my ArcGIS Online content. So this is this county temp data. And I'm actually adding two layers from this. It's actually got multiple layers. So I'm adding the second one here, and then I'm adding the next one here. And then, so basically these are county boundary or state boundaries and then the county temperature data. And then to actually add those to the map, you can use this add method that's associated with the map object. So after setting up this feature layer, I'm just doing map.add to add it to the map, and then same thing here, map.add to add it to the map. So those are those two layers added there. So let me just comment out this, and we'll do a Control S. So now when it reloads, we shouldn't have those state boundaries there any longer because they actually haven't been added to the map. If I do the same thing here, oops, do Control S. Now we don't get any of those layers loading in because again, we've just turned them off. So the point is you have to define the layer and then you also have to add it to the map. Okay, so that's one example. Let's now look at a different one, couple different ways to add data. So I'm going to look at this method 2 option now. Go ahead and initialize this. Okay, so this is the same result, but I'm reading in the layers a little bit differently this time. So again, we're calling in the same modules. But now I'm defining the layers up front. So before I create the map or the view or the map view, I'm defining the layers. And then whenever I actually create the map, I now provide this layers argument and then list those layers out in an array. So I'm calling the layers now when I create the map as opposed to adding them to the map after the fact. So that's it. That's actually pretty straightforward. So there's two different ways to do it. So again, you could create the map, add them later with the map's add method, or you can list them out here when you define the map. But if you do that, you're going to have to create them beforehand. Okay, so those are examples with feature layers, but there are a few other options. Let's look at adding a layer using a portal ID. So I'm going to open this now. Let me close out some of these. We'll kill this and reactivate it. Okay, so this is adding these Tissot indicatrix to this map. So just some circles. So again, this is coming from a portal ID now. So now when my modules, I'm loading in this layer one as opposed to the feature layer. And then again, same order there. And to actually call it, I'm doing this layer.from portal item, and I'm using the portal item ID to actually add it in. So now I'm just using this as opposed to its URL. If you were not sure where to find this, if you have data stored in your ArcGIS Online, this is basically the end of the URL for that object. Yeah, and then this just adds it to the map. And that's basically it. So a layer dot from portal item and then add to map. So that's a way to do it with the portal ID as opposed to the URL. I'll be honest, I mainly use the URLs because I just like that method. It makes more sense to me, but this is another way to do it. People have different opinions, obviously. Okay, that's that one. So let's look at adding a few other different types of layers. So let's look at adding a tile layer. So I'm going to add this in here. And let me close this so we have a little bit more room. Again, we'll kill our, and we'll reload it with this new one. Okay, so this is a raster tile layer from an ArcGIS REST service. So this is some leaf off imagery. Okay, so now same thing here. I'm adding in, now I want to add in a layer from a tile layer. So that's where this is coming from. And then this tile layer I'm calling Napier, which is actually not what it is. I realized I changed this out. But anyway, it's this 2003 2-foot imagery that's provided by the West Virginia GIS Tech Center. So basically to find the layer, I give the URL. And now I'm using, instead of feature layer, I'm using a tile layer. And I set the format, so basically I'm saying that it can export to the client either JPEG or PNG files. And then whenever I create the map, I add that layer in. Note that even though this is just one layer, I'm still putting it inside of an array, and then obviously create the div. Again, if you're not sure where to find URLs, let me just go to this real quick. All right, so this is the landing REST page for that service. So it's basically just this URL. All right, note that this also has some sublayers in it too, so you could call those in separately if you wanted. All right, so that's adding it from a layer. I think those are all the major examples I had for adding in data. There are a few other options. You can add things in from like open services like WFS, WMTS, WTS, I guess, web tile service. And like things like vector services and things like that. But again, if you're interested in other methods, just check out the API documentation. It's pretty well documented.